The Time Crystal. The year is 2022. Tom Rivera is an 18-year-old who recently graduated high school. Like most guys his age, he lives with his parents, who both work in law enforcement. His family are Mexican American, and they reside in the South Texas city of San Antonio. Tom had recently moved into a new house, only about 5 minutes away from his old one. This one was much nicer though. It was a 2-story house with a big yard and a lot of space inside. With his father's new promotion from deputy to sheriff, Tom's family has a bit more income coming into the bank account. Tom did miss his old house, but was in awe with his new one, which stood on the first block of Girard Avenue. Tom did like his room. It was a big room at the top of the stairs. He studied it completely and couldn't find anything wrong with it. The room was upstairs, as mentioned before, and Tom always wanted an upstairs bedroom. The room also had a giant closet where Tom could put his favorite jerseys, sweaters, and hats. There was just one thing about the closet. There was writing on the frame of the closet door. It looked as if someone had carved something on there. Upon closer inspection, Tom read aloud the letters C.G. Tom wondered what that could possibly stand for, when suddenly there came a knocking on the door. "Tom, come down here. The neighbors have come to give us a housewarming gift," yelled Tom's mom. Tom rushed downstairs, and at the door stood a thin, middle-aged couple holding a sartén and a bottle of wine. "Tom, come on over and meet the Escobedos. This is Jose and Brenda." Tom greeted them both. "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood, Rivera family. Please feel free to ask us for anything anytime." Tom's mind now began to wonder many things about his new house, especially over who had lived there before. That night, as Tom tried to sleep, he couldn't help but look at that carving with those 2 letters on there. What did they stand for? Was it a name of someone who lived there before? Tom woke up early the next morning and headed down to the grocery store for some food. As he walked out of the H-E-B, he noticed an old woman holding a small cat, trying to make her way to her house across the street. Just as the old woman reached the door, the cat jumped out of the basket and began running towards the street. A guy in a red Chevy saw the cat and sped up to try to run it over. Without even thinking, Tom left his grocery basket and ran from his truck, heading straight for the cat to save it. Right before the car could hit the cat, Tom dove right in front of it and grabbed the cat in his arms as they both tumbled into the sidewalk safely. The man driving the Chevy honked his horn and yelled profanities at Tom, but Tom was just happy that the cat was all right. As the Chevy sped off, Tom noticed that its wheel had blown out and the car crashed into a street pole. Tom turned fast to face the old woman, who had finished whispering something to herself. Tom ran back to her to give her the cat. "Oh, my little Clay. Thank you so much, young man. If it weren't for you, my little gatito would be a cat pancake. And that bastard driving that ugly car would be dead instead of just knocked out. Thank you so much again. How could I ever repay you?" Tom looked back at the Chevy, with its hood all smashed up by the pole and the guy all knocked out at the wheel. The lady grabbed Tom by the arm, reassuring him that the driver was fine. Once inside the old woman's house, Tom couldn't believe his eyes. There were skulls and candles. Inside the house looked like a Dia de los Muertos parade. The old woman told Tom to wait for her there, in the living room, and hurried into the other room. Tom could see many old pictures of both people and pets, houses, and buildings. The old woman came back quickly and into the room. "Look, mijo, I have something for you as an award for saving my precious kitty." Tom turned to face her quickly, and wonder what exactly she had for him. Tom hoped it was money. The old woman handed Tom a crystal. What is it?" Tom asked. "It's a time crystal, mijito. It can take you back to any time you want. But a word of advice. Use it to travel to a time where you yourself are not born yet, and try not to disrupt any events that could alter the future for the worse. However, there is also a chance to change the future for the better." Tom almost laughed, for he didn't believe a word out of the old woman's mouth, but instead politely asked, "How does it work?" The old woman responded, "Simple. Hold it in the palm of your left hand, and with your right hand, rub it clockwise, and then counterclockwise, and then specify the exact date you would like to visit. The crystal will then show you a glimpse of it in its reflection, and if you like what you see and wish to travel there, then close your eyes and then open them. Good luck." Tom then went straight home for lunch. Upon arriving back at the house, he noticed his parents had visitors. The Escobedos were once again having lunch with Tom's parents. So you're a sheriff?" Mr. Escobedo asked Tom's dad. "That's amazing." Tom's mom saw him come in and called him over to the table to join them and the neighbors for some chile rellenos and salsa, brought over by the Escobedos. Tom actually did enjoy the food, but couldn't help but feel a bit odd when Brenda Escobedo told his parents about the people who lived in that house before. "This house has been around for a while. In fact, it was built in the early 1950s. And before y'all moved in, only one other person has ever lived here. It was my abuela. She was, well, not a very friendly person. She was very old school and strict. She died in 1998 when I was just 12. Oh, but I did remember her pretty well. Oh, one doesn't forget an enojona like her. Actually, I have many pictures of her with me, and my mom, her daughter. And boy, was she always getting after her, and me. I know I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but she was quite horrible. I mean, in all her pictures that I have of her, she's not smiling. Nope, not in one." Tom listened quietly and wondered to himself how exactly did the house look back in the day. I mean, it looked nice right now, but was it much nicer when it was first built? At night, Tom couldn't shake the thought of his room, let alone his house. And then he remembered the time crystal. He jumped out of bed and reached for the pocket of his jeans, which he had left on the chair. The next day, Tom woke up pretty late, at almost noon. But that's what happens when you stay up late watching TV. He brushed his teeth and got dressed. And as he picked up the pillow from the floor, he saw the time crystal. Tom's dad called him downstairs to take out the trash. Tom put the crystal in his pocket. As he arrived to the front of the house, Tom put the trash in the can and then looked back at the house. He reached for the crystal and rubbed it clockwise, counterclockwise, and then repeated the words, "Take me back to exactly this time in the year after the house was built." In the crystal, he saw the reflection of the house. Tom then closed his eyes and opened them. And then he realized that the surrounding area around him had greatly changed. Tom stood in awe at the sight. As nice as his house was before, it looked even more spectacular now. The color had not yet faded, and the grass on the lawn was much greener and shorter, like artificial turf. It's my house," Tom said to himself. He was so filled with many mixed emotions of wonder, excitement, and even confusion that he had no idea what to do next. Then from down the street, Tom saw someone coming. It was a young woman, like Tom's age. She was medium height with a thin figure, caramel-colored skin, and very curly hair in a bob style, and eyes with big pupils. She looked at Tom with perplexity. Tom stared back, not knowing what to say, until finally the girl spoke. "Who are you?" Tom didn't know what to say, for he was just as uncertain as she was. "Are you from the city? Is there something wrong?" she asked him again. No, it's just, I'm just standing in front of my house," Tom said. The young girl's eyes widened in surprise. "Your house? This is my house." Tom walked towards the house, as the girl once again asked what he was doing. 123 Gerard Avenue. "This is my house," Tom cried with enthusiasm. The girl responded, "No, sir. This is my father's house. We moved in just last year." Tom walked back to the yard and couldn't believe what was happening. Could it all be true? Is it just a dream? Is this really happening? Tell me, is it all true? Wait, what's the date? Tom asked. June 20th? The girl replied. No. What year? Tom asked again. The girl stood confused. She did not know if Tom was really being serious. "It's 1954, the girl finally said. 1954? Are you serious? 1954? Oh my God, I've gone back in time!" Tom began freaking out. I can't believe it. The crystal, it works, he cried. The girl shook her head and went up to Tom. Could you please leave? She asked. Tom then turned to face her. Her pupils widened. "Look, you're not going to believe this, but this is a time crystal. I used it to travel to this date. I'm originally from the future. I'm from 2022. You got to believe me," Tom said. Just then an older man carrying a bat came to the two. "Is there a problem here, Caroline?" he asked. Caroline looked at him and then looked back at Tom. She studied him a moment. She was a good judge of character and could also tell when someone was lying. She did not get those vibes from this strange guy, though. Then she turned back to the old man, saying, "No, Mr. Alvarez, everything's fine." Mr. Alvarez looked at Tom, and then with a, "Well, all right then," went back to his house. Tom wasn't completely sure what had just happened, but part of him knew he had just dodged a bullet. Or should I say a bat. He laughed nervously before asking the girl, "So, your name's Caroline? Well, nice name." Caroline said nothing, for she had no idea why she had the feeling that she had about the stranger. But something inside her knew that he posed no threat of danger. Still in her mind, she knew that what he said was impossible. "Who are you really? And don't lie to me. I can tell when people lie," she said sternly. "My name is Tom Rivera. I'm from the future. I'm serious. Look, I don't know how this happened, but I come from the year 2022. You see, I saved this old lady's cat, and in return she gave me this time crystal. And then I rub it, and I wish to be sent back to a year before this house was built, and well, now I guess I'm in 1954. Look, I know it sounds like a story from like the Twilight Zone or something, but hey, you gotta believe me, it's very true." Caroline scoffed. 2022? The time crystal? Twilight Zone? What does that even mean? Look, I think you read too many comic books, guy. And what are those clothes you're wearing? Honestly, you must be hitting the sauce early or something, but I find it very hard to believe any of this. Look, Tom interrupted, showing Caroline the purple crystal. Caroline couldn't believe her eyes. The crystal shined in the sun like a lamp. I'll show you, Tom said, but then decided that before he would show Caroline how the crystal worked, he wanted to look inside the house. Caroline tried to stop him, but Tom ran inside, opening the door swiftly. Hey, you better stop. My dad'll kill you for barging in here like that. Tom stopped in front of the stairs. My room is up there, he told Caroline. No, it's not. My room is up there, and you can't go up there. I mean it, she cried. Tom asked politely, but Caroline refused. Look, it may be your room now, but in the future that's my room. We had just moved in, too. It has big windows and a big closet door, and on the frame someone carved CG on it. And Tom began to ramble, and then Caroline stopped him. Wait, CG? How do you know about that? She asked. Because I'm not lying. That'll someday be my room. And I just want to see it real quick, so what do you say? Please? Caroline crossed her arms, and her big eyes grew small. She sighed softly and pointed upstairs. After I show you, you leave. Immediately. Tom promised, and the two went up to Caroline's room. Tom opened the door carefully and looked into the room. And the room was, well, a bit different. The windows were still big, and the closet was too, but the color was different. Whereas Tom's room was blue, this room was white. And the curtains on the bed were a light pink. And where Tom's video game case and TV were, there was a huge dresser drawer and a bookcase. Tom went to the closet, and in it there were school clothes, Sunday dresses, and bows. Hey, get out of there, Caroline cried. Tom looked up to the frame, and there were the letters again. So what do those letters mean? He asked. Those are my initials. My name is Caroline Gutierrez. Now, like you promised, it's time for you to leave. Tom didn't want to leave, but he knew he had to. He took his crystal in his hand and headed out the door. Caroline followed him. They both walked down the stairs when suddenly they heard a loud coughing. Both stopped in their tracks. What was that? Tom said loudly. Shh! Caroline put her finger to Tom's mouth before taking his hand and rushing back upstairs. Upon arriving back at the room, Caroline closed the door softly before turning back to Tom. What happened? Tom whispered. That was my father. On his days off, he likes to sleep late, and if I wake him up, he's gonna beat me, she said in a nervous voice. Really? That's terrible, Tom said. Caroline nodded. Where's your mom? Tom asked. Caroline looked down at the floor sadly before lifting her brown eyes. She died when I was a little girl. I'm my parents' only child. Really? Hey, I'm an only child too, Tom said. I still have both my parents, and they treat me good. They give me everything that I want and everything I need. I wish everyone had some like that, Tom said. Then there came a knocking on the door. Caroline, a voice called out loudly. It was her dad. Caroline grabbed Tom by the shirt and pushed him into the closet, closing it. I'm coming, Papa. Just give me a moment. Then the door flung open. Tom could see through a little crack on the closet door the big, angry man who came into the room. Who are you talking to, girl? He asked in an angry tone of voice. No one, Papa. I was reading, Caroline replied nervously. Well, you know when I wake up I'm hungry. Go downstairs and make us some dinner. Go on, ándale, I'm starving. Yes, Papa, I'll be right down, Caroline said as her dad stormed out the room. Caroline went to the closet and told Tom that he'd have to hide there until the night when her dad went back to sleep, and also to be very quiet. Tom nodded. As Caroline left her room, Tom began to imagine even more things about his situation. Like what was the world like outside, and how very few people in his time could be able to say that they were alive in 1950s San Antonio. Then Tom heard the doorknob move, and Caroline walked into the room. Tom, Tom, she called. In here, Tom called from the closet. You spent this whole time in the closet? She asked. Yeah, I don't want your dad to discover that I'm here. Oh, yes, that would be a disaster. He'd kill us both, Caroline added. Then Tom walked out of the closet and both sat on the bed. Tom, are you really from the future? Caroline asked, as Tom nodded with a smile. Oh, wow, I can't believe it. What's it like? Caroline asked. Tom didn't know where to begin. He told Caroline about color televisions and cars with air conditioning and internet. In the future, we have this thing called the internet. You could use it to look up anything you want. It's kind of like a library that you can use anywhere. Oh, and we have cell phones. You can talk everywhere and send messages and play music. Caroline listened to Tom like a child who listens to bedtime stories. In her head, the imagination of a world like the one Tom claims he came from seemed magical yet impossible. Still, she was more than impressed with the ideas that were presented to her. What music is there in the future? Caroline asked. Oh, we got tons to pick from. We got rock, rap, pop, reggae, you name it, we got it. Caroline looked dumbfounded. Rap? Rock? Well, I guess I can picture someone hitting on a rock, but, what about, like, Rosemary Clooney, or Georgia Gibbs, or Doris Day, Bing Crosby? Sinatra? I love Sinatra, she asked. Tom laughed softly. I never heard of those people, but if it's oldies you like, well, we got Queen, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Tom said. Caroline hadn't the slightest idea what that was, but it didn't matter, for Tom's vision of the future was extremely interesting to her. That evening, Tom slept in Caroline's closet, and once morning came, Tom was awakened by Caroline for breakfast, which she snuck into her room for him. After Caroline's father left for work, Tom went to the restroom and brushed his teeth using his finger, and also did his business, as he had been holding it since he had arrived. Tom asked Caroline if they could take a stroll down the street, so that Tom may see firsthand what San Antonio looked like on the distant past. Caroline, still struggling with the fact that she had a friend born in the future, obliged. Tom couldn't believe his eyes, for the neighborhoods looked very much different, and there was more open areas and not nearly as many houses or buildings. They explored for hours when Tom suddenly got hungry again, and so did Caroline. They came across a mom-and-pop establishment which claimed to have the best food in town. Tom wanted to try this out, but Caroline stopped him. Tom, we can't go in there, she said. What are you talking about? Well, why not? Tom asked. Caroline pointed to a sign posted on the front door. It read, "No Spanish or Mexicans." Tom's heart began to beat a bit faster, and his nerves became a bit tense at the sight, but he lowered his head and laughed, for he had heard of the racism and prejudice experienced by his people in history. Tom was a huge history fan, and although he rarely experienced racism in his own time, he knew that these times were a bit different. Still, Tom took Caroline by the hand and proceeded to walk up to the door. Tom, no, I told you we can't, Caroline shrieked. Tom turned to her, and with a forced laugh, he simply opened the door. Inside the restaurant, Tom couldn't find anything that would imply that this place actually had the best food in town, but either way, he still proceeded to the register and attempted to order. So I hear you have the best food in town. Mind if I be the judge of that? He asked the old woman at the register. But she only looked at Tom with anger in her eyes. She could not believe his audacity, but she simply pointed to the sign. Tom pretended not to notice and continued his order. Hey boy, you can't read English? The lady said. We don't serve your people here. No Mexicans, no Spanish, no chili. Now leave before I call the sheriff, the old woman threatened as an old man came in with a gun in hand. There a problem here, Ma? He said angrily. Caroline's stomach began to turn, and she swallowed hard, but Tom seemed unfazed by the threats and rudeness of the people. You know what's funny? In the future, my dad's a sheriff, he said. The old couple grew angry and once again refused service to Tom and Caroline, and even threatened to shoot him. Okay, don't get your panties in a bunch. We're leaving. But before I do, let me just say, in the future, most people on this side of town, probably including this very establishment here that you own, is pretty much dominated by my people. Yeah, Mexican Americans, Latinos, Hispanics, whatever you call us. Yeah, we're pretty much the majority in the south side of San Antonio in the future. And you little white KKK loving sons of bitches with your hypocritical fake kindness, two-faced racist bastards will be all gone. Bye! Tom took Caroline by the hand and the two ran out of the restaurant laughing like they had just come out of a fun house. They stopped to catch their breath at a tree in some park. Caroline couldn't deny that she was a bit impressed with the way Tom had handled the two old racist people. Tom, that was so cool how you let those old coots have it. You are the bee's knees. Tom smiled. He actually felt really good standing up for Caroline and himself. The two then walked out, despite their hunger, until they reached the Riverwalk. It wasn't as extravagant as it was in the 21st century, but still pretty nice. The river was cleaner, but there were more geese and ducks around. And at last they came across a Mexican restaurant called Casa Rio. Tom and Caroline ate good, and Tom even ordered a shot of tequila, which he nearly spit out on the court, but he couldn't hold his liquor. On the way back to Caroline's house, the two did more sightseeing. Caroline hadn't had that much fun in her 18-year-old life in forever. That was about to change. Waiting at the doorstep of Caroline's house was her father, and he did not look happy. Caroline was having so much fun that she had lost track of time, and her dad had arrived home before her. Her father was even more angry upon seeing Caroline walking side by side with the boy. What in the hell is going on here? Where were you? He demanded to know. Who's this guy you're with? He asked angrily. Papa, I'm so sorry. Caroline shook uncontrollably. You get inside the house right now, young lady, and make me my dinner. I'll deal with you later. Caroline froze. She didn't want to leave Tom alone with her father. Now, he yelled, and Caroline rushed inside. Tom's dad laughed. He could tell Tom was scared half to death, and for that reason he knew he could mess with him. Now, boy, you're just a chavalon hanging out with my daughter. You're probably the reason she's been out all night. But consider this your one and only warning, because the next time I see you anywhere near my daughter or my house, I've got a revolver with 3 bullets that have your name on them. Lárgate. Tom turned tail and tried to run, but nearly tripped several times. Caroline's dad picked up a rock from the grass and threw it at Tom. Caroline saw the whole thing through the window. Tom rushed down the streets and didn't stop until he reached the park, where he lay down on the bench and fell fast asleep. The next day, Tom woke up feeling very upset. The time crystal was still in his pocket, but upon closer inspection, it had cracked, possibly due to Tom sleeping on top of it. Tom knew he had to use it to go back before it cracked some more and he was stuck there. But before that, he needed to make sure that Caroline was all right. Tom walked back to Caroline's house. He could see through the window that she was making food. Tom could also see the car, a 1952 Thunderbird, in the driveway, meaning her dad was still there. Tom waited until the car left, almost a whole hour afterwards. Tom then knocked on the door. Caroline answered, surprised that Tom had come back. She smiled and invited Tom inside. Tom then remembered the time crystal. He told Caroline that this meant that he might have to leave already. My time crystal that I used to come here with, it's cracked. I think I might have to leave before it breaks some more, he said sadly. I'd like to use our room, so that I can arrive back in time in the room. Caroline agreed, and just as they were about to head upstairs, the front door opened. Caroline's dad had forgotten his lunch, and when he saw Tom inside his house, he went crazy. You! I thought I told you to stay away from here, boy. I'm gonna kick your ass. Now, sir, there's no need for violence. If I may just explain, Tom began to try to reason with Caroline's dad. Tom, what are you doing? Caroline said nervously. I just want to talk with your dad. I'm going to tell him the truth and about how I'm from... Bam! Tom got punched right in the face. He was stunned but also angry. He tried to throw a punch, but Caroline's dad was big, strong, and had been fighting all his life. He blocked Tom's first hit and proceeded to hit Tom 10 more times in the face, head, and chest. Tom fell back, seeing stars as he fell to the floor. Caroline's dad then reached for the gun which he kept on the table next to the stairs. I warned you, boy, he said, pointing the gun at Tom, ready to pull the trigger. Then the dad fell over, and Tom could see Caroline behind him with the frying pan. Bam! Knocked out. Caroline's dad lay motionless on the floor. I feel good, Caroline said. Then the two rushed back upstairs. In the struggle, the time crystal was beginning to crack even more. Tom and Caroline stood close together. Tom had tears in his eyes, for he did not want to leave Caroline, but she told him he needed to go. Tom, you need to go back to your time. You don't belong here, Caroline said. Come with me, Tom pleaded. But Caroline sadly shook her head. No, I can't. I don't belong in that time. Tom and Caroline looked into each other's eyes. I'm sorry for everything, Caroline. I wish we could have spent more time, and I'm gonna miss you, Tom said, as a tear fell from his eye. Caroline took Tom's hand. Don't be sorry. You did so much for me. You made me realize that life is what you make out of it. And from now on, I won't let anything or anyone stop me. I'm moving out of here as soon as I can. I'm going to enjoy my life. I want you to do the same when you get back to your time. Caroline and Tom hugged one last time. Tom rubbed the crystal clockwise, counterclockwise, and then whispered the date. Have a great life, Tom told Caroline as he vanished in a flash of light. Tom woke up in his room. To his surprise, it was light outside. The time crystal had shattered. Tom rushed downstairs to find the Escobedos back having lunch with Tom's parents again. Tom, come join us. You remember Jose and Brenda? Tom's mom said. Tom reached the table and sat down. He turned to Mrs. Escobedo, asking her, You said your grandma once lived here, right? She lived here with her dad? Tom asked. Oh, yes. That was many years ago. They were the first people to live in this house. But then my grandmother began working as a waitress and saved enough money to leave this house. And then she met my grandpa, and, well, she had my mom, my aunt, my uncle, and, well, then she had grandchildren, and I'm one of them. Wait, wasn't she like a bitter old woman? Tom asked. Brenda raised an eyebrow. My abuelita was not a bitter old woman. She was kind-hearted, very adventurous and outspoken. In fact, I have some pictures of her. I would like to show you if you would like to see them. Tom nodded happily. Tell me, where is your grandma now? We cut to a scene where Tom is driving down the street to the old mission cemetery. He walks down the hill and reaches a grave. Hey, old girl. I've missed you, he says to the tombstone. Tom kneels before Caroline's grave. He noticed something that makes him smile. The grave read, Caroline Gutierrez, born August 1936, died January 2020. Wow, Tom thought to himself. She lived another 22 years. Tom looked at the old photos of Caroline. In each photo, he could see her maturing and everything she had done, from working as a waitress, to her at the beach, to traveling to Paris, to her with her husband and children, and finally, her as an older woman with her grandchildren. And Tom noticed one huge detail in each picture. Caroline was smiling. Later on that evening, after Tom showered, he went into his closet to reach for his sleeping shirt, and on top of the closet door frame, Tom read new words carved on the frame. Live your life to the fullest, Tom. Love, Caroline. The end.